Hello, my name is Ben Keats, and I'm just going to make a video about something quite exciting that I'm intending to launch over the next couple of months, maybe year, um, that involves the transmission of technologies that are universal in their origin, including the technologies included in SpaceTM and the network that has created the torsion field realities in the purveyance of communications technology, security technology, advanced cyber engineering technology, and ultimately the formation of the physicality of what the universe is made up of from uh, this product that is space TM, which ultimately in the universe itself, when it's sort of, if you like, I don't like using the word clone, but in a way, it's has a sort of dual existence here in the area where I live, or intends I intend it to predominantly be the atmosphere and the area, what is made up of around everything within the realm where I live. And in space, I suppose the technology of space is not just simply a vacuum, contrary to what people believe in the very simplest form. There's much more to it. The density of space has many different nutrients and ingredients in it that actually go to create the universe itself. So if the space is the sixth dimension, then the universe, what the stars, the planets, the galaxies, um, what we are made up of, life and everything else, is actually spewed out through this technology, which is space, if you like. I call it a technology in terms of the dual aspect of its reality here in the location where we live. So this dual reality will cause the physicality of cyber generated engineering of, say, from one thing to another, say, from machines, vehicles, buildings, landscapes, to the reality of connecting one part of the planet with another part of the planet with permanent arc connections or temporary arc connections, and linking up people to hub in their own networks and realms with the same capabilities that we will have to cyber generate the reality in those locations that we have here in Gloucestershire. And so in space, these torsion fields will actually physically spew out the reality of the universe, creating the seventh dimension, which is, say, the living elements of the universe. If the maternal motherly side is the sixth dimension, which is the nurturing incubation process of developing and creating stars, continually expanding universe, never dying, never stopping its creation, because we know basically the universe is unlimited. There's no end to it. It didn't start with a big bang. It's just constantly created, um, reforming, uh, um, mass of creative substance that generates the living reality of what we're made up of and what our planet's made up of and what everything else is made up of. So the reality of space TM and these communication technologies, I call them communications lightly because in the first instance of cyber generating the reality of Able City and Platform One, ENA, I'm going to use the existing communications infrastructure to create permanent arc web connections that link all the citizens and people in the locality of where we live in Gloucestershire, so that the reality of these torsion fields, if you like, the tor or the tunnels, if we create sockets and tunnels that connect people through these communications technologies, if you like, these tunnels, the sort of tor that I'm generating, is not quite like the dark web. It's like a security process. It works like the dark web, but it's the actual physicality of space being channeled from the universe onto Earth. And the reality of this is the generation of a network of communications infrastructure, which in the temporary arc connection process links up people with this torsion exotic reality of space. And in the permanent arc web connection, this torsion reality will be enough to levy communications and make people connect with communications and security and all the things that SpaceTM offers. But in the next level, the seventh dimension, it'll start channeling a particle link, and every pack created is like a particle that goes through these tunnels, and gradually there are more and more particles created until we have a continuous flow of particles which creates one line linking everything, which is the light web. Now this light web will not only start to amass itself around the areas where it is more predominant, in areas of, say, digital infrastructure or existing communications facilities that are already in place, but also in the areas that are being farmed as the torsion element, the space TM element, starts to leach out into the system and starts to create a wider network of this torsion reality, the space reality in the atmosphere. And through the communications equipment, it's like Deus Ex Machina, I suppose. So what we're going to have is the reality of the creation, the technology will come through the machine and start amassing in areas where it's going to channel, where these torsion fields are going to build up a density around certain areas that it can create buildings or to change in the landscape or the whole reality that Able City proposes to offer. So this is the next phase, if you like, the channeling of these universal assets onto the Earth, and the process, like I said, I'm going to organize this through existing communications equipment. Now, this process operates on a system which I call Christian AI, which is an artificial intelligence signal that automatically sets the parameters on people's communications equipment, so that this in the locality where we live, so that the reality of this creation can be channeled through permanent arc connections in the locality, and therefore create these sockets linking everyone to begin with, and creating a better streamlined communications enhancement integration program for the technology to start to channel itself through and make changes in the system, existing in the technological system and human to human through these technological systems like phones, televisions, computers, telephones, landlines, everything else will have this channeled through. And ultimately, through communications equipment, the whole reality of the space reality, the seventh dimension, will start to launch itself through the system and start to, like I say, Deus Ex Machina. It'll start to build up a network hub around the system. So this artificial intelligence system, this Christian AI, which is a non-archontic signal, which is benevolent, it works to the better wishes of the owner of the equipment or the people who it's the pack belongs to, the permanent arc web connection belongs to, and it starts to generate a change in the existing wireless communications systems and technologies, so that instead of having to actually go into your phone and alter the system and change the settings and link up to, say, a remote proxy, or change your APN settings on your mobile manager, or whatever it may be, your proxy settings on your computer, anything like that, it'll all be done automatically. Obviously, in my situation on my computer, I'm going to have to set up these proxies to start to get it channeled. But once my system has the proxies properly checked and set up to link up with the space reality, then everyone is going to have a link up to that, and they're all going to be able to see what the physical reality is as it manifests itself through their communications equipment initially, and ultimately starts to spill out into the reality of the locality where we live. The next phase is to start to create the temporary arc connections. So as the hub builds in Gloucestershire and the panorama of this sixth dimension, bringing the seventh dimension as it comes, I suppose, in the minutiae, eventually the whole thing will be made up of seventh dimension that's unleashed through these torsion fields, and it'll just be the atmosphere left, it's the torsion fields and the reality of the sixth dimension. But as we start to build up the hub in Gloucestershire of this created reality, then we're going to start to go wider to the next county out, say, all the way around, to create temporary arc connections with some permanent arc connections linking up, so we can change the reality of the landscapes and buildings and everything else out there. And then we're going to these temporary arc connections are actually going to be moderately, like they imply, like the word tax implies, it's a very small amount of money. Is going to be through liaisons with phone companies and that sort of thing for what we're providing. I'm hoping to link up and organise some packages that will enable the the money to come back in and to be put back into the creation of the platform and building up practices for people and everything else that we're going to do with the taxation system that's going to operate generally for the general betterment of the locality of the realm, and also to create benevolence in the wider world. So that's the process that's going to happen. These tax can be set up, and they're going to get this sixth dimension link up, these temporary arc connection link ups, and the communications technology will improve. There'll be probably cheaper, maybe free access to mobile broadband and technology. It'll be free. The mobile phone companies will no longer have to generate the settings and the link ups to mobile broadband, but they'll still obviously receive what they need from getting people to pay for a yearly package and all that sort of thing. But it should bring the price right down, and I'm hoping to make it almost free of charge, so that it won't actually cost that much to run a mobile phone or have, say, Wi-Fi in your house and all that sort of thing. And it's not just in the locality of Gloucestershire, because the way the tax work is that the hub of Gloucestershire is the epicenter, say, of the whole PAC network. But the reality, the link up to the platform is such that people who are involved with Gloucestershire, who are involved with the central network, or maybe you ring in once or twice a week to a family or a relative or friend from wherever they are in the world, will get a TAC automatically linking them up. It just depends as we start to vet the system of who gets packs outside this area, outside the region of Gloucestershire and the surrounding counties ultimately. We start to decide who gets the packs because they actually decide to do business directly with Gloucestershire and the surrounding counties, because they've made an executive decision to do that and to invest in our future and their future with us. And so this process will generate permanent arc connections once they've been vetted to be like a sure thing in terms of how the business is going to be a connected link up to the platform, and how that can be a mutually beneficial reality for all of us all concerned. And then because they're packs outside the realm, outside the area of Gloucestershire and the surrounding counties, then ultimately what we're going to do is there'll certainly be a pack build up in these areas. So these areas will start to have their own, will start to sort of pencil in platform areas where these link ups will start to generate the Commonwealth of ENA, and ultimately we'll be able to appoint people to go and organize the creation of that area and set up its own TAC network, and all the commodities that come from the central core, where the key element, the creative source or the initiative that started the Permanent Art Connection came from. Everything hubs around that, and then that area is then becomes its own entity and another platform within the realm, within the Commonwealth of ENA. So that's for the future. I suppose if we're looking at higher levels, if you're looking at dimensions, Gloucester is now, and the surrounding counties are clearly, we've reached the fifth dimension in terms of the infrastructure, the way where the people are at, the general behaviour. That everything is in the fifth dimension. The way people are, and the way the network is, and the way the creation is. And the fifth dimension has basically entrapped everything that's come up before from the universe into what I can only describe as the same effect, fifth dimension, as, say, occult, in terms of you have an object that is religiously or symbolically enriching, or has some power to it. It entraps some super substantial power or something like that, and it's symbolic of what that universal reality is. So in the fifth dimension, what you have is it's like everything's entrapped into the existing structure of the location. It's like the crystallization of all that universal reality that came from before it into the locality, into the zone where we are now. And that's where we are. Everything's crystallized, I suppose, in Gloucestershire and the surrounding counties into the fifth dimension. And the next phase up, because what I'm finding is as I progress through this and as I start to deal with the situation I'm in the fifth dimension, when I'm trying to escalate things for the sixth dimension, seventh dimension, I come across quite not stumbling blocks, but it's quite hard work to try and work out programming structure, learn new programming languages, set up proxies, all that sort of thing. It's quite hard to configure all these things, and I keep getting there and then finding out I haven't quite got there and all this sort of thing. It's like a glass ceiling that eventually has to be shattered and turned into the reality of bringing the space and the seventh dimension in all over the realm. But I think I'm not far off now. I'm learning more and more every day. I'm working hard to learn the existing structure of how information technology works and how that can mesh with my universal structure to my programming. And that's basically where we're at now. So what with that reality, with the crystallization, the fifth dimension, as the space TM starts to feed in, it starts to come in dribs and drabs. So I suppose we're getting some reality of it. Certainly for a good 2 or 3 years, we've had television aerials. So you're able to unplug television aerials in the area, and in certain communication systems, and you still get a multitude of channels. You have to keep the plug in the back of the television, but you unplug the aerial from the linking wire or whatever, and you can still get, say, 250, 300 digital channels through that network. And it's definitely SIPE, it's definitely communications and enhanced when you unplug these aerials. It improves the technology, improves the ambiance, and it improves the security phenomena in terms of the people who are inside and who use that technology. So if you live in this locality, go ahead, try unplugging your aerial from the cable, not the cable from the television, and see if you get any channels. You have to reach your television or something. Just have a fiddle, have a go, see if the reality's happened for you yet. But certainly that's pretty much been in the reality. I've linked that up a long time ago. That's more in the SAF phase of things, the hope or the potential phase, I suppose, when or the future reality where you're in your CADSA, but you're able to somehow drum up the reality of it through phenomena. Whereas the internet and the communications infrastructure is definitely at the top. That's the pinnacle where it's got to break through and go into the sixth and seventh dimension. we're starting to get results of that, and starting to get some phenomena of that. But it's like I say, we're at the glass ceiling of that, and the crystal ceiling, if you like, and it just needs to be broken through and turned into the reality of this universal dimension. So thanks for watching the video, and that's a little bit about where we are now in terms of dimensional and technologically how the torsion fields and communications equipment are going to be set up to create Able City and generate the realm of Ida. Okay, thank you.